Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of An Object Today. So today I'm going to kind of cheat. We might look at these objects in more detail later, but I just recently picked these up and I think they're going to make a good episode because there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. So what is this in front of us? And by the way, there's not just two, there's four, there's five of these. So these are hand-bound collections of Golden Age comic books. Looks like they were bound. I mean, it's not a bad binding job, but it's definitely not a professional binding job. So this one, I think he did a nice job. You know, choosing a good front and end paper. I think on a custom bind is one of the big ways to kind of set it apart from maybe some more amateur, and we're going to see some examples of that in his other books. So I think this is like a journal or a notebook cover. And yeah, and then you got Marge's Tubby meets the aliens. Let me make sure the camera's adjusted right. Okay, let me clear the stack a little bit. So, yeah, so this episode might be a few parts. But yeah, each of these books, this one's about 750 pages, and you just get a lot of Marge's Little Lulu and Tubby comics, which is, I'm down for that. You know, this is very elegant, simple, effective cartooning. This is nice to look at. You know, the more kind of the fun of old newsprint is that the color kind of ages. It's like this very cheap kind of watercolor effect because, you know, I think it kind of it absorbs into the paper, and then over time it kind of absorbs differently in different places, and it creates these really interesting kind of muted color textures. So there's no way I could go through this entire book today. Unfortunately, a few of these pages have seen some damage, but I'm gonna see if there's a way to fix that in kind of a preservation way. I think I'm gonna try to do some rehab on these particular books. Let's see. There we go. So can I close it and keep? There we go. So yep, here we are. They're playing baseball. Okay. This is yeah. So this is very old paper. I might have to treat the paper. Depending how far I want to go, this could be quite the rehabilitation project, but at the very least I want to share it with everybody. And yeah, this is just classic Golden Age humorous kids madness kind of stuff. You know, this is it's fun. And it's, you know, it doesn't have quite the like simplicity to the point of surrealism that, say, like Nancy or something like that has, but there's a lot to love here. This guy removed most of the advertising that was originally present in the books, but these are almost certainly original pages from the comic books. And, you know, there's no real chance of these being reproduced in it. And even the aging, like every kind of the older comic books get, the the more differences you can spot, like even copy to copy, they have that kind of Decasia kind of artifact, right? Like that movie Decasia, where it's just the really damaged film running. There's something kind of fascinating about that as a quality in an object. Some of this almost feels a little bit like it's not as crazy as like Harvey Kurtzman, but it has the same kind of fast and loose, like put the figures, like it doesn't have to be a naturalistic pose, but put the figures in some kind of dynamic pose. You got the little kid beating on Tubby, and every time the little kid beats on Tubby, Marge, who's the cartoonist, comes up with, it's just fun to look at. Yeah, maybe we'll take a closer look at this guy eventually. But yeah, this is about 800 or so pages of Little Lulu. And I'm excited to sit down and very carefully read it and do some restoration to it. This is really cool. So what are the other books? These aren't really, there was a label. This says cartoon comics though, so that's not super helpful. This spine is going to have to get, honestly, this whole... Oh, actually, probably the easiest way to restore these would be to just put a new wrapper on them, like carefully remove this red stuff. Yeah, probably remove it instead of, it would be damaging the object, but this object, this isn't going to last long on its own design, So, I don't know. How do you feel about that? Tell me in the comments. So, anyway, what is in this book? So we got, Looney Tunes, whole bunch of Looney Tunes comics. I kind of wonder, I think there's a page missing at the beginning here. Unfortunately, he didn't put the covers in these. These were from the collection of a guy named Patrick McGrath. And some of these old Looney Tunes covers, I have some of them in another room. Maybe we'll look at those sometimes. They're just like very, like 50s stuff and even 40s stuff. It's like sexed up, but it's sexed up in this weird repressed way that makes it seem like kind of even more dirty. Like some of these Looney Tunes covers, if you look at them in the right light, they almost feel like Robert Crumb drawings, and you can kind of understand why, or maybe not why, but like that attraction that Crumb claimed to have to Bugs Bunny when he was much younger. And yeah, these are more fun humor comics, drawn in a pleasing, simple style. The artists, I'm sure the stories are what aren't great in these a lot of the Golden Age comics, not all the Golden Age comics, but oh yeah, this is gonna need some TLC. Anyway, enough of that guy. What's in this guy? So we have an upside down Tarzan coloring book cover used as the front of the binding. There's it looks like it's saddle stitch bound, and it feels like to my finger and from the kind of chemical residue over there that he secured it with probably some kind of PVA glue. I'm not entirely sure how you would get this apart if you wanted to cleanly. I probably won't try doing that. I'll probably just try to make a more um, sturdy front cover to board. Okay, so we got a bunch of little iodine comics. The 40s, these look um, a little bit older than some of the other stuff. It's like that Bigfoot cartooning that, again, was like really influential on Crumb. Obviously, it's a lot. I think what Crumb adds is just this like grimy uh, texture with all of the stippling. And yeah, like this looks very much like underground comics. I think a lot of them took from the non-superhero genre comics, or at least that's like kind of what the kids or what the cartoonists when they were kids were looking at. Um, and yeah, it's just like like great use of color. Um, Drawn very quickly, obviously, but that's a lot of these cartoonists were drawing like 80 to 100 pages a month. None of this work paid very well, but it was usually like side work done by, or very often it was side work being done by people in like animation studios and stuff where they had a lot of experience kind of slapping something out really quickly. Um, it's nice to see, like, I have a lot of Golden Age comics and they're not in, the acid in the newsprint paper eventually breaks down the paper, the thing that creates that kind of sepia tone wash behind all the pictures. Um, so you can treat that. Most of them have not been treated. I'm looking into buying some of that stuff. I don't know how expensive it gets or how complicated the process is, but yeah, without preventative measures, this paper is going to just continue breaking down, and it doesn't even like exposure to heat and sunlight will expedite that process, but the acid is in the paper, so it's kind of a slow moving chemical reaction. You got a moose. I'm not familiar with that. I feel like they drew hens a lot better back then. This is like a plump little guy with character. Um, why do you think I'm dressed this way? If you took out this side of the panel, it's just a weird image, and that's kind of there's a lot of weird sexual subtext and stuff in these comics. Oh, here's an ad. There's a few of them. I've never seen this one. The color reproduction on the ads in these is so much worse than the actual comics. Like, I think it was always a mistake to try to print anything photorealistic on newsprint because it looks, like you can use it to an effect, but if you're literally trying to just use it as a photograph like here, it just looks so muddy and nasty, and like that has its appeal, but I don't think that's what the advertisers are going for. Oh, this one has a few ads. A lot of stuff about changing your body. There's like weight gain pills and weight loss pills in the same issue of some of these comics. DC. It's still the adventures of Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, so this must be an early one. Let me check the time. Alright, I think this is a good place to leave it for part 2. Alright, see you guys on the flip side. This is an object a day. I got a podcast. It's called Anomaly Questionable Movies. Go check it out with Dan and Ron. And also, I have a store in cozy, quaint Ballston Spa, New York, right near Saratoga, not too far from Albany. And if you like looking at stuff like this, there's a lot of it in the store, so I'll catch you on the flip side.